absolutely excited to host our distinguished featured guest speaker for the day, Roald Maliangkay, who's not a stranger to UC Irvine. I was just doing the math, and it's been 10 years actually since you came.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but my memory is still fresh. I introduced you as the nicest Dutch scholar that I've ever met. The title still stands because I've not met a new Dutch friend since you, Roald. So you still hold that title of the nicest and most interesting Dutch friend I've ever had.
I thank my compatriots for being so horrible.
And Roald is, needs no introduction. He's been one of the most fascinating, most productive Korean studies scholar in the world. Teaches out of Australian National University, where he's actually Zooming from right as we speak. He holds many titles, and I'm not going to read all the titles, man. There's too many. But you're one of the deans over there, obviously associate professor, program director in many things, and been doing a lot of research on Korean popular culture, Korean traditional music. This is he began as an ethnomusicologist, I believe. Wrote a fascinating book on we just talked consorti just the other day, and I compared it to hip hop. I don't know if that works, Roald, but I mean, I always say it's Korean rap music, consorti, right? Okay, thank you. There you have it from an expert, folks. And is among many of the books that he has published, there is, I'm just gonna go through some of them. K-pop, the international rise of the Korean music industry. He's he's been writing fusely on cultural conservation, heritage, consumption of everyday life, as well as East Asian, so broader than just Korean, East Asian popular culture and entertainment. So please welcome to UC Irvine, Professor Maliangkay.
Thank you so much, Kyung. That's a way too kind an introduction. It is a real pleasure to talk to you today, and thank you so much for coming. I also want to thank the people who invited me and helped organize this next to Kyung, and it's been a real pleasure to work with those, and hopefully we'll have a bit of discussion today, so it's worth your while. And I guess I can start sharing my screen with you. Sometimes these things don't work as well as they should, so please do shout out or I guess put something in the chat or something to let me know that it's not working properly. Anyway, the first slide seems to be okay. So in spite of this title here on the screen today, in my research, I found that a lot of the commercials in South Korea do not actually have music that is worthy of note in supporting the promotional concept, in supporting what they're trying to sell. It's either too short, it's too generic, or play too softly in the background to really draw the target consumer's attention on its own. And a growing number of commercials nevertheless use music to draw attention by way of an attractive or entertaining composition, association with a celebrity, of course, or repetition. And since kind of just mere repetition can lead to appreciation, in recent years, a common feature of a lot of promotional campaigns in South Korea is an earworm. So this kind of catchy or striking music sequence that is endlessly repeated in people's minds long after they've last heard it. Zhang Sanu, who's the director of the nation's largest advertising agency, Tail Worldwide, said that whereas in the past, the songs in their commercials were more story-centered, these days they repeat the brand name and core message over and over to get people to recognize and repeat them and remember them, of course. The inadvertent repetition that those earworms entail, however, has nevertheless also been recognized as harmful to Korean high school students. Their ability to concentrate on studying for the SATs. And so in 2019, several commercials were blacklisted for use around the time of the national exams. And it is ironic that one of the songs blacklisted was by Daesung Maimak, which is a company that specializes in helping students succeed at the SATs. Now, music has the potential to stir feelings on both conscious and subconscious levels. And used in film, it can be a very powerful conduit of emotions in support of the visual narrative, even when it's played non-diegetically at a very low volume. We've been taught how to interpret music. And so it doesn't really matter whether the original intent of that particular piece of music actually bears any relation to what you see on the screen. But when it's used, that music, when it's used in a movie that is viewed by a very different type of audience, one that it wasn't really the intended one, the music can actually be disruptive. And where its purpose is to promote, as in commercials, music must therefore align very well with the target audience. After all, you don't have much time. And in that very short time allowed, commercials must very swiftly foster this kind of need or desire to have it or to buy into something. And because distractions from the message are common, there is a risk that it fails to reach that objective. Because music is harder to ignore than text or images, advertisers recognized the importance of such alignment as early as 1929. The message of a commercial must never be ambiguous. I'm just going to check the chat board. I saw there was a little note there. Hopefully it's all working well. Okay, good. So Claudia Bulajan identifies 3 key features of the use of music in television commercials that all rely on alignment with the target audience. So there's motivation, opportunity, and ability. So while the first and the second features relate to the use of music to respectively attract and convey information, the third captures the use of music to help the target audience digest the message. For example, when music fits the product and provides context for kind of interpreting or digesting the information. She notes, however, that the trade-offs do occur. So for example, if you constantly repeat a particular song, that can kind of make people turn off and their motivation to pay attention is therefore reduced. It is interesting to examine such features in TV commercials in Korea, where celebrities, including K-pop idols, dominate the advertising world. Might a celebrity not distract the target audience from processing the commercial message embedded? How do advertisers ensure that the images of celebrity correspond well with the commercial's music and target audience? So in my talk today, I will explore the combined use of music and K-pop idols in Korean commercials since 2009 and examine how advertisers ensure that the commercial message is clear and persuasive. And I will argue that when a K-pop idol endorses many different products, rather than leading to some kind of overexposure, it can have a cumulative effect on the efficacy of the individual marketing campaigns. A broad range of music is used in Korean commercials today, as you probably guessed or know. So although jingles and songs are sometimes based on existing ones, most music is composed for a particular marketing campaign. When commercials feature K-pop idols, the likelihood of them drawing on existing songs by other artists is even smaller. A few examples of commercials that adapted foreign hits are those, for example, for LG smartphones in 2009, in which respectively Big Bang and 2NE1 and FX and SHINee performed the song Lollipop, and another for LG smartphones in 2010, in which Girls' Generation performed the song Cookie. Well, the first song was based on a 1958 hit by the same name written by Julius Dixon and Beverly Ross. The second was based on Tony Basil's 1981 hit, Hey Mickey. Sometimes commercials have K-pop idols cover Korean hit songs. So, for example, there's the 2009 commercial for KTF's X Slim line of smartphones, in which Wonder Girls covered Finkel's Now from 2000. And then there's that commercial for American Tourister luggage from 2016, in which Girlfriend performed a new version of boy band UN's song Wave from 2012.
매일 똑같은 일상 속에 언제나 나의 마음은 떠나고 싶어 시원한 여름의 바다로 푸른 가슴 안고 바다에 듣고도 다 잊어버리고.
Surprisingly, perhaps, despite the prevalence, commercials that feature K-pop idols are more likely to have music composed specifically for the ad rather than excerpts from the star's own repertoire. Exceptions include, perhaps not surprisingly, Psy's global hit Gangnam Style, which in 2012 served as the inspiration for commercials by Samsung Electronics, LG, and Nongshim. There's also a fairly large number of commercials that promote both a product and a new song by the K-pop idol or group featured. Since the mid-1990s, when the genre of K-pop really took shape, a lot of K-pop idols have appeared in commercials. Now, the main reasons for that is obvious, I suppose. Their involvement will increase the visibility and the appeal of the products advertised. It offers significant incentive for the idols and their agencies. Perhaps I should say agencies first, idols second. And of course, there's the kind of the general possibility that ads kind of take off on their own through social media, which will benefit both parties. By 2002, more than half of the commercials featured celebrities. Some 75% of them were below the age of 40, and while the majority were actors, 10% were K-pop idols. Since then, the percentage of TV ads featuring celebrities, mostly Korean, has hovered a little above 50%, which is very high. It's the highest in the world at the moment, according to surveys, with Japan just sitting just below that, and then China sitting about 26, and in the United States, it's approximately 10. And you can check the article that Professor Kyung-Hyun Kim would have shared with you. It seems that despite the dramatically increased prominence of K-pop in Korean media, the use of K-pop idols in commercials hasn't actually grown proportionately. This may be because there's only few ads aimed at adults that have suited, at least until now, the appearance of either a male or female group, which is currently the dominant K-pop format. Another likely factor is that while K-pop fans are in their teens, 20s, and 30s, and therefore have considerable spending power, in general, adults are more likely to be attracted to Korean actors and actresses. Indeed, nationwide surveys carried out since 2003 reveal that actors and actresses indeed continue to be the preferred type of celebrity to appear in commercials. The effect of sexual or romantic attraction of on the members of the opposite sex is apparent. Suzy, a former member of K-pop girl group Miss A, which was active between 2010 and 2017, is among the few K-pop idols to have been ranked in the top 5, if mostly, surprise, surprise, with men, though her identity as a singer is likely to wane now that the group has kind of gone missing. Perhaps surprisingly, boy band BTS has only been a slight favorite with female respondents, presumably because the group leans less on its sex appeal than, for example, boy band SHINee. The strong popularity of a K-pop idol with a particular gender may seem like an issue, problematic even, but seeing as Suzy has promoted a lot of female cosmetics products, her being favored among male respondents hasn't been an issue. Rather, it led female consumers to take note. At the same time, it is important not to take these rankings as indicative of the popularity of idols only. An equally important factor would have been that the commercials supported the appeal of the idols. They were a good fit. In Korea, the range of promotional campaigns that feature celebrities is wide. It appears that Korean consumers are quite open-minded about who they're willing to take product advice from, as one can easily find examples of celebrities promoting experiences that they are unlikely the arbiter of or may never have had. Rather, their role in the campaign is to attract the target audience and lead them to believe that by buying the product, they buy into a way of life or an aesthetic that would appeal also to the celebrity. So while male models are therefore frequently used to promote female cosmetics, commercials from respectively 2012 and 13 even featured actor Seo Ji-sup in endorsing Vivian Brass and Monua's robotic vacuum cleaner. When in early 2013, I came across a street billboard for an outlet of the Nolbu spicy sausage stew chain of restaurants in Seoul's central Myeongdong, featuring a life-size Psy holding a large plate of stew ingredients, it made sense to me. But a billboard put up by the nearby Onul Beauty and Lifestyle product store around the same time, showing this, which you see on the screen, did make me do a double take. And I guess that's exactly what the advertisers were hoping people like me would do. So Korean consumers enjoy recognizing local celebrities. Based on a comparison of ads featuring celebrities that were broadcast in the US and Korea in fall 2002, Chae, Lee, and Kim deliberated the differences in marketing. They found that contrary to a low context culture like the US, where information tends to be communicated in direct and explicit ways, in Korea, the celebrities were almost exclusively local, and they usually appeared in character without their identity and credentials being identified, listed perhaps. Pointing to earlier studies that corroborate their hypothesis that advertisements in high context cultures like Korea require less information, they argued that international marketing campaigns may require culture-to-specific approaches. Many Korean advertisements do indeed assume that their audience is well-informed, perhaps cosmopolitan, and that they are capable of recognizing the celebrity and the character in which they appear. Providing detailed information on a celebrity or a product would risk coming across as condescending. In Korea, the practice of seeking to appeal to the well-informed consumer has a long history. It calls to mind the inclusion of English words on illustrations of Hero's cigarette packages in Korean print ads from the late 19th century, where the words "push this end" at the bottom served no purpose other than providing a defining challenge to the well-educated reader. And if you look at the ad, yeah, please tell me if I'm wrong, but my sense is that that bit at the bottom really was to challenge the reader. Like, can you work out why this is here? So even in a country where they are so prevalent, using celebrities may not be without risk. Olga Fedorenko, and Stephen Epstein have shown that celebrities may increasingly land in domestic hot waters when their endorsement of patriotism comes into question. While the behavior of celebrities is unlikely to have been cause for concern in the past, since the Burning Sun scandal in 2019, both advertising and idol agencies may engage in extensive risk assessment. Since many celebrities endorse more than one product, a scandal can affect the outcome of different marketing campaigns and thus lead to multiple claims for damages. Now, scandals are rare since endorsing products means a lot of money. So, for example, in 2013, which was only 3 years into Miss A's debut, Suzy was reported to have already made more than 10 billion won from involvement in ad campaigns. But the prevalence of celebrities in commercials today is probably going to grow, and which means that we're going to see more cases, especially with what Stephen Epstein calls the auto paparazzification. I had to practice this word in the mirror this morning. Auto paparazzification. I still got it. Of behind the scene footage by the idols themselves. Like text and color, music and celebrities can add both product information and emotion to commercials. While print advertising can easily be ignored, sound may not be. So it may not be, well, it could be enjoyed, but it may not be. You cannot switch off. So that affects the role and really makes studying the role of music in commercials challenging, but also interesting and important. Indeed, in a nationwide survey conducted in 2018, 1 in 3 people said they considered songs a positive feature of radio advertising. Like music, celebrities enable commercials to captivate their or target audience without the need for specific words or text. They can attract, they can add prestige or even sexual appeal and promise reliability. Along with music, celebrities belong to commercials' background stimuli, which Gerald Gorn argues deserve greater recognition. In part because those background stimuli work on an emotional level, he finds that when informants comment on their response to a particular commercial, they're prone to play down the effect of those stimuli just in order to appear more rational, which makes it really hard to understand the role of music, for example, on the commercial's effectiveness. In Korea, where both music and celebrity feature in a small majority of commercials, the stimuli may not stand out as much as they may do elsewhere. In addition, as the surveys that I've mentioned show, because a celebrity can have a strong romantic appeal to respondents, it may cause those respondents to kind of play down the effect of kind of falling in love a little bit, to seem more rational. And even it may struggle them to appreciate other factors in the ad, because all they are thinking about is that particular BTS singer, for example, or that particular song. When in 2016, for example, a commercial for Bunga Opska's vitamin drink Oronamin Shi, featuring announcer Chang Hyun-moo and Chorok singer Hong Jin-young, led to a sales increase of 167%, no one could possibly identify to what degree each of the various aspects produced the positive outcome. There was an associated SNS-based advertising scheme, which may have played a significant role, but then there was also the video's silly dance battle, the humorously yodeled techno song, the madcap antics, the popularity of the stars, the colorful clothing, and the celebrities' performed childlike playfulness, egg-yolk perhaps, and good looks will have all helped make the commercial appealing and create a positive association with the product. Yeah, I guess I have to show it to you now. Here we go. Whoop, didn't work. An approach to marketing that exploded in popularity in 2020 is a competition, a challenge that invites customers to share images or videos of themselves via social media. The concept was propelled by K-pop idol Zico's hit 아무 Any Song, which was released on January the 13th last year and topped the music charts for weeks. It was accompanied by a TikTok-based dance video challenge that went viral when a few celebrities took it up. Campaigns that have used this gamification-based customer involvement approach include LG's Trom line of washing machines and Chevrolet's Trailblazer Summer Ride from 2021, this year. A bit like earworms, the campaigns are intended to spur the organic repetition of a commercial message. In doing so, they piggyback on the popularity of reality talent shows and video sharing apps like Instagram and TikTok, while relying also, as you can imagine, on the millions of consumers who in 2020 at least were homebound on account of the pandemic. Although the involvement of amateurs is essential to the scheme's attraction, celebrities are usually involved either as models or to show how fun participating can be. But when they demonstrate how to do it, they always kind of make a half-assed effort, to be honest, just to make sure that the bar isn't set too high for those watching. While many commercials feature K-pop idols performing to catchy songs, the prominence of the products usually prevents any confusion about the intent of the videos. However, by making the product less conspicuous and introducing a new song available for sale as a single or as part of an album, a fairly large number of commercials do not only look exactly like a music video, but constitute one. Because those videos start and end with the product and have lyrics that relate to it, they differ from mere product placement. As soon as songs like these are released as digital singles, they become further commercialized as part of the repertoire of the featured idol. If then the content becomes popular, possibly on account of fans sharing it online, this can lead to the commercial message embedded being played back organically at no further cost to the advertiser. And of course, social media means there is money going into the pockets also of the agencies. So the idols, meanwhile, may then gain from that kind of monetizing website, as well as simply because of their increased prevalence, if you like, their increased involvement in this nationwide marketing campaign. Commercials that seek to pass off as music videos can be as long as 3 to 4 minutes, although as you can imagine, just like other regular commercials, they're often played in condensed format, especially when they're aired on primetime TV. So since 2009, some well-known commercials that assume the form of actual K-pop music videos include, in order of the year in which they ran, the following. So there's quite a list, I think. So this is first set, and you may recognize at least some of them, those of you who enjoy K-pop. The one in bold, I'm going to play a snippet of a little bit later. And this is the second list. So commercials that look like music videos emerged on the back of the dramatic global rise of the latter medium in the 1980s, spearheaded by MTV. Like regular commercials, music videos were promotional, intended to help sell records. The persuasive power of the combination of music, video, and celebrity made the reversal, commercials that served as music videos, follow closely in their wake. A well-known early example of such a video/commercial was that with Michael Jackson for Pepsi in 1984. In the commercials, the performers themselves do not provide product information. They seem to be meant as a form of audio-visual entertainment, first and foremost, to appeal rather than inform. The idols may profess their love for a product by way of song and dance, but too much information would ruin the appeal, and you can always interpret as that love being meant for a person. At the start of the video Chocolate Love by Girls' Generation, for example, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, there's a 5-second sequence where all the idols are shown enjoying their phone, the product, but it doesn't reappear until half a minute later, and only for a single second. Single-second shots of the idols treasuring the phone appear at a few odd intervals before a single phone lying on the floor playing the start of the same video comes in focus for 2 seconds near the end. So the product itself is shown for only 13 seconds in this nearly 4-minute video. The women stand in a chorus line and dressed in white negligees. They sing of, among other things, wanting to touch you from the moment I saw you.
순간부터 만지고 싶어 나만 가지고 싶어 Chocolate love 요소 같은 새로운 매력 거부할 수 있겠니.
Similarly, in the video Reborn, excuse me, by J Park, Double K, and Boy B, it is only the words presented by Pan Young-soo that appear on screen for 2 seconds around the start that tell the viewer of the commercial nature of the video. The music does not appear adapted to suit the commercial message, and it's the performers who take center stage rather than the product. Again, the main singer, J Park, is shown holding a bottle of the product for a few seconds early on, is then handed another. You kind of wonder where did the first one go, around the 1-minute mark. But it isn't until a minute and a half into the video that a range of bottles of the product on a shelf appear in focus for about 1 second. The product's health benefits are, however, promoted also by the hospital-inspired studio setting, the nurses and patients who appear to enjoy engaging with each other and having a sip of the product, and by the lyrics that repeat, "I'm reborn," countless times with added phrases like, "My energy is charged," and "I bounce back."
모든 만지는 가볍게 덜어내 전생에 받은 상처들 거칠래 I'm reborn, 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 reborn yeah. 다시 태어나 새롭게 시작해 다시 한 번 더 기회가 생겼네 I'm reborn, 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 reborn ooh, ooh. I'm reborn, 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 reborn ooh, ooh. I'm reborn, 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 reborn yeah. 새롭게 태어나 yeah. 잠에서 깨어나 yeah, yeah. I'ma go get on 에너지 충전해서 come on let's get it AOMG higher music let's party 삶을 돌아봐야 너무 행복하지 밥제방 먹고 내다 찾아 빛까지 It's a dream team 마치 말걸 let's party 패배를 느껴봐야 승리의 맛이 그만큼 달콤해야 희망을 잊지 않게 고개를 숙이지 마 떳떳하게 keep your head up keep your head up
Yes sir 매일 밤 새로 태어났지 난 꿈의 장소는 침대가 아니야 답답한 나의 속을 시원하게 해주는 그 순간을 위해 살아 난 지나간 모든 건 당연히 지나간 대로 의미를 갖겠지 다시 새 그림을 그려 한 번뿐인 삶은 드라마 아닌 다큐 각본은 못 쓴다.
Well, the decision to pursue a connection on an emotional level does imply a trade-off, as it complicates the inclusion of product information. The alternative, a commercial that is perceived as inflated with product information, poses the greater risk that fans of the idols will end up resenting the product and the company behind it, or possibly even resent the idols themselves. The mood that commercials with K-pop idols project is decidedly upbeat. Apart from associating products with positivity and charity work, the performance and beauty of the idols suggest the products are intended for people with identical degrees of ambition, sophistication, and conscientiousness. They may also appeal to the discerning consumer of household products, albeit less, on account of the idol's young age. Because many idols are considered icons of beauty, they're frequently asked to serve as ambassadors for designer brands, so even a commercial for school uniforms will benefit from the idol's real or implied ties to high street and designer fashion. If they maintain a positive public image, therefore, different marketing campaigns featuring the same idols can have a cumulative effect. By involving K-pop idols, these commercials rely not only on an emotional connection and various positive attributes, but also on the associations that the celebrities summon with other brands. The style of music in commercials varies considerably. Even so, due to its inoffensive nature and popularity among a broad segment of the population, many ads use compositions that either resemble or represent K-pop. Unless they feature a K-pop idol or a new song or both, the music may not add much appeal or intrigue. But considering K-pop idols feature in hundreds, maybe maybe thousands of commercials for a very wide range of products, the creation of a complacent or conformist image doesn't seem to be kind of a cause for concern yet. The social media that serve as a gateway will allow both advertisers and idols to acquire data about the composition of their audiences, as well as their likes and dislikes. Because it is impossible to accurately predict how commercials will be experienced, however, advertising agencies are likely to follow proven methods, especially when costly K-pop idols are involved. Indeed, despite their brevity and the commercial importance of association, understanding the communicative function of commercials and their background stimuli is complicated, and it risks negating the interpreting processes on an individual level. So while I have attempted to focus on the functionality of commercials in terms of their emotive and communicative abilities, even elaborate consumer surveys are unlikely to capture all the connotations and subtext that affected how an ad was experienced. And that is exactly because of the points that Gorn has made, that people tend to, especially in surveys, people tend to play down those aspects, those background stimuli that perhaps paint not as positive a picture of them as individuals. Since 2009, several dozens of commercials have promoted both a consumer product and a new K-pop song. While the product campaigns benefit, among other things, from the popularity of the idols and their clean image, as well as by the ad potentially being replayed organically by both fans and those enjoying the song, which is not the same, The artists and their agencies are financially compensated for their endorsement, and they may benefit from the additional exposure and their content's monetization. Perhaps because idols performing taglines and taking anything other than center stage might cheapen them in the eyes of viewers and fans, the commercials adopt the format of a music video, the idol's natural realm, if you like. The lyrics of the songs are broad enough to associate a product as well as a loved one, the person viewing. This is this unusual combination of advertising and music entertainment that therefore kind of resembles product placement, but actually seeks to promote both the product and the models equally. Music videos has often been treated as commercials for the artists themselves. And some of the regular commercials, not the ones I've just been speaking about, but regular ones that I have mentioned briefly earlier on, could be seen as still serving the same purpose, irrespective of whether they mirror music videos or not. Now in 2020, the music videos for Brave Girls' song 운전만 해, We Ride, and Saturday's, or I should say Saturday's song DBDBD could be regarded as going one step further. By featuring the idols appearing in a range of commercials, they could be regarded as commercials for the use of the idols in marketing campaigns. So I'll just show a snippet of both videos. And Saturday. So K-pop's strong association with fashion brands already narrows the distinctions between regular music videos and commercials. The difference between the two formats has become increasingly small, especially since live concerts make ample use of animated background projections to help the idols reenact the music videos. The videos and commercials, therefore, ought no longer to be seen as kind of complementary to K-pop, a way of marketing the real thing, but rather as intrinsic to the entertainment form. Branded mini metaverses, can I use that? Around socially conscious models who can perform to perfection on and off stage and show unfailing dedication to their art and their audiences. It's not difficult to see why this is such an attractive format. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roald. That was a beautiful presentation. Before I open up, and Monica, who is a TA for the class, also a graduate student in our Korean studies, will help us moderate with the questions asked through the Q&A from outside participants. But I don't know how we're going to proceed, but I will try to get some of our students to engage in questions, as well as obviously the participants will give equal opportunity to the outside participants as well. But I had the immediate question before we get warmed up. I remember being in a number of conversations with film directors, in Korea, and I vividly remember, one conversation that I had was what's his name? Choi Dong-won, the guy who made Thieves and 도둑들 and Assassination. I'm sorry, I mean those films have a lot of stars and celebrities in it. Chun Ji-hyun being one of them, Lee Jung-jae, the guy in Squid Game. He's worked with them all. And after a few drinks, he would just go off, and say, listen, yeah, listen, you know, like he would just get so frustrated. I don't know why, because his films have been so successful, but he would just get so frustrated at the fact that, listen, Korean actors don't work for movies, they work for commercials. That's all they care about. Maybe I shouldn't have said this loudly because it was a private conversation, but there you have the kind of, I think, sort of a predicament of what the Korean celebrity culture and the ways in which commercials are so essential and integral component of celebrity culture, as well as you know, the social values that they're supposedly to promote, you know. Which is very different from, obviously, celebrities are treated in the US. And the article that you suggested also, you know, demonstrate the difference. Celebrities here are more sold or marketed on an individual, right, kind of basis. They're supposed to uphold a certain kind of individualistic value. Celebrities in Korea, by and large, are supposed to promote certain kind of, you know, neo-Confucian familial and community values, you know, which is not necessarily the ways in which celebrities are perceived in the US. They obviously make a lot more money in Korea, being models, role models of a certain kind of community values, and are utilized as such. So I was wondering whether you've thought about the obviously the social differences between the US and Korea. Obviously, there seems to be a different kind of register that is at work here. Yeah. Or, you know, here, again, I think celebrities are perceived to be individual artists, you know, whereas in Korea, they're not necessarily seen as individual artists who actually have autonomous kind of opinions about, you know, who they are and what their art supposed to represent, whether they've been film or music or whatnot. They're supposed to promote, again, communal consensus, you know, and that's one of the reasons why they don't necessarily, a lot of them refrain from endorsing, obviously, political candidates in Korea as well. Whereas obviously in America, most celebrities do end up endorsing, you know, political candidacy, right? So there you have it. I know it's a lot, but if you can comment on those things, it'd be great.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, that's really insightful and interesting. I'm sure the attendants have also read the article and probably wondered about this too. When I read this, the comparison between the US and Korea, one thing that didn't sit so well with me was the fairly easy kind of description of America being a, let's say, small or low context society, because it seemed almost a bit biased in a negative sense towards the United States, because there's so much more going on, as always. And so I was thinking about that a lot, but unfortunately, as I was doing this research, I didn't really have space to explore that much. And I'm not someone who's very knowledgeable about the United States. But I think you bring up a very important point, and that is I guess the conformity of general popular entertainment in Korea, but even in traditional music, I found this a lot, is significant. And there is indeed a huge difference in how we perceive our celebrities in the United States and in Korea. There's very little, let's say, the very great differences in the yardsticks that make, for example, in Australia, a celebrity, how they perform. In Australia, for example, the culture is very macho. So someone who can be a little bit, it's actually, sometimes it seems very Korean, someone who can be a little bit, let's say, not rough in let's say in a rude way, but a little bit rough about how they talk about their own personal experience is considered, and maybe this is very similar to the United States, is considered a positive. Someone who will talk about their own personal lives in ways that show it's not polished. That's probably a better way to describe it. Whereas in Korea, they seem to enjoy this a lot as well. And this may also explain the popularity of these reality TV shows. But there's I guess the social pressure to be to fall in line, even in doing so, is considerable. So even when you're performing as part of one of those, let's say, reality TV shows in Korea, and you have a sleepover with a couple of other celebrities, and the cameras are on you, and etc., and you're supposed to show another side of you. Of course, nothing there is not performed, and this is the expectation. Whereas in the United States, I think we're looking for a bit more that is unpolished. That would almost be the yardstick, I think. And so your question, in a sense, brings up something that I see a lot and discuss a lot: the conformity. And conformity to me, and I'll stop soon so we can go to other questions. But conformity to me can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It can be good when it allows people to feel they're kind of on top of things and they follow trends in terms of behavior as well. And as you mentioned, sometimes that means making a lot of money too. But it can also be a bad thing where people basically stop thinking for themselves and blindly follow things that are actually not that good at all. And so you see both things play out in all societies. You see it in Korea as well. And I would say you see a lot of that negativity playing out in popular culture in Korea, where there's this a kind of tension between the real person and the performed one. I guess I'll stop there because
thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you for. Anybody want to ask questions? Believe me, it's not you. I struggle with this a lot myself, but I feel, Monica, there's a Q&A, right? A question if you want to. Whoa.
Hold on.
Right.
I think it's my issue.
That must be Australian internet. I think the system is also feeling it's a Friday afternoon.
Okay, what's your question? She's going now.
What about now?
Oh, the sound is great.
Okay, I'm actually outside, but this is gonna work fine. One of the attendees asked in the Q&A, in a song called Miracles in December by boy group EXO, the music video shows product placement for brand Nature Republic. Seeing now that Miracles in December, quote unquote, is a seasonal hit in South Korea, is it possible that audiences refer to that brand with that song and helps promote the product each year? Does in-product placement in music videos that are official, like Lollipop, which is strictly a commercial, seem more effective?
That's a great question. So thank you to the person who left, but I can't answer that. It will differ between particular ads and so on, and I'm sure that it depends also on the popularity of particular videos. I suppose that sometimes so what I hear around Australia among the K-pop fans, and we have many at ANU, is that they go online and they find out what people are wearing, they buy it online, and they're crazy about researching the videos and all the footage that they can get about particular stars, celebrities. Once they find particular jumper or shirt or some jewelry that is not actually advertised, those items can become very popular very quickly, even though it's not even a type of product placement, because there's often, it's not like a Sotaji back in the 90s when he was wearing the tag still with the clothes, which was hilarious, and I wish that was brought back again. But it's kind of it's the fan community making this a bit of a discovery, and it becomes almost like a private thing, which drives the attraction of it. So that's kind of the opposite end. And of course you have the music videos that I explored in much detail, I think. So there's quite a range in between. And so I can't say that one format will be more successful than another, because I think we should ask the advertisers. But I think what is interesting here in response to this question is that there's going to be very blatant advertising that actually works, and there's going to be very subtle or perhaps unintended advertising by way of unnamed, unbranded endorsements that will sometimes work just as well, if not better. So there's a whole range in the middle.
Monica, you want to ask the next question?
Absolutely. So another one of the attendees, Kirk Davis, asked, what impact has Western opera had on K-pop scene, if any?
Oh, that's very interesting. So thanks, Kirk. To be honest, I don't know. I think I've seen different styles of music being brought into K-pop in the last 2 years. I've also seen a lot of Korean traditional music being brought in the last 2 years, and there's many examples of that. And our friend Sida Bao Seji has presented a lot on this as well. But I haven't actually seen specific Western opera related videos. I'm sure there are some, but I can't comment on that. What is, I suppose, interesting is that you see more and more diverse forms of music being adopted into K-pop, and then we have to ask why that is, and how they do so. What the new video and the new music actually says about Western opera and the particular piece they chose, and whether, for example, in the case of traditional music, whether it's clean traditional music, so not something perhaps too, let's say, too odd in the sense of the religion behind it. There may be aspects that the government ultimately wouldn't be too happy to see embedded in a BTS song, for example. I'm guessing here, but I think it'll be interesting to see what they use and how they use it, and of course why. And one obvious, if I may, one obvious objective may be to help make the K-pop more unique, more Korean, as we see kind of increasing numbers of K-pop style groups emerging around East Asia. Perhaps the successful blending of Korean styles, and in this case, Western styles, wouldn't suit my argument, but at least with traditional elements, it would boost, I guess, the uniqueness and also the identity of this being K-pop. That's all I can say.
Do you have another question there, Monica, before our students get warmed up? more?
No, I think Kirk had a comment, but I think
Uh-huh.
that's it.
Okay, so I mean, I also had another question. I mean, this is more specific. I haven't really paid attention to Korean television in the last few years. I mean, I do watch television when I go to Korea, but you know, it's been 2 years since I've been back because of the pandemic. Now, everything to me is right now not necessarily about the music. You know, I mean, K-pop is notoriously a genre that is not necessarily about the music. It's about the looks and, you know, the social media. It's about selling stories. You know, different kind of universes that are out there that is doing different things. How relevant in the ways in which it's, I don't know if I have a question necessarily, but in the ways in which it has become less about, again, the auditory sensation, how much of a value does K-pop place then because it's all about the sensory, again, vibration and the response and commitment that you're trying to bring in a commercial.
Yeah.
I wonder if jingle is the only way. I mean, to put it very crudely, where music matters to K-pop,
Yeah.
you know, and I wonder if everything else is then less relevant. I mean, is there a fair assessment? Is that the reason why you're looking at commercials? I mean, what brought you to this research now that looks at K-pop and specifically more about commercials is, I guess, my question, more specifically.
Thank you. Yes, it's actually there's I think a couple of questions here that we could unpack. So one of the I guess motivations for me was to look at something that is pretty much in my face when I go to Korea. So the first slide I showed is a photo I took at Incheon Airport as I arrived. I was waiting for my suitcase and it was late, and so I took the photo. And so I hadn't actually officially gone through customs yet, in a sense, and yet there I was. So taking a photo of Blackpink, right? So it's really everywhere, and I'm like you. I'm not a big TV person, so I thankfully I was able to rely a lot on YouTube, as well as articles and so on. There's a lot of stuff that I can rely on, and you know, and the occasional visit as well. But yeah, that was one of the motivations. It's really everywhere, and so I don't think we can discuss K-pop in Korea, at least, without talking about the marketing and the advertising that seems to be very much the product almost, rather than the music. So as you shop around Seoul, you'll hear the music, but what is everywhere is K-pop, not so much as a music product, but more like selling models in a sense. So I found that very interesting. I continue to be amazed by it. And then if you look at Sydney, for example, you go to Sydney, you already see K-pop stars advertising things as well. And so the music, it becomes almost secondary, as you suggested. Are they actually selling, like I said in my conclusion, are they selling models or are they music people? And so one part that I kind of left out of my presentation today is a section where I discuss the use of acoustic instruments in commercials as well by K-pop stars, because that seems to me intended to remind the audience that, hey, they still really care about music. They love sitting in a studio, even though we probably know that a lot of the studio work is done by other people, and then they're brought in to do the voices. And I don't want to dismiss their role, but a lot of the music, of course, is basically is prepared by other people. So them sitting in a studio, kind of doing this, which you see in some commercials, is nice, but it probably bears zero relationship to what actually happens when they bring out the music. So that's it's an interesting question, and I don't know where all this will go, and maybe that's another reason to go back to Kirk's question, why they're bringing in opera. Maybe that's an answer to it. Why they're bringing in traditional music. Maybe that helps to associate authenticity with K-pop. It may be the answer to Kirk's question.
Yeah. Any questions here that you asked? I know that there's a lot of questions, I'm sure, but it's really difficult for a class.
And it's Friday afternoon. I'm very aware. So
No, it's actually Thursday here. Roald.
Oh, it's Thursday.
You got, yeah. They have no excuse.
No excuse. Come on.
Okay,
So actually,
I'm gonna give him 5 more minutes. But
sure.
I mean, I just to again respond what you were saying. I think it's because you touched on conformity, when I tried to talk about, the social and maybe a cultural value difference in terms of America or the West and Korea. But that's precisely it. I mean, I go back to that because so much of the ways in which K-pop has been invented and continues to evolve is as a complete, again, commercial capitalist vehicle. Of course, music has always, in many ways, complemented, capitalism and industrialization and so on and so forth. All those things, as you point out, I mean, it's always there. 100 years ago, it was selling, music was selling something. Or if you need to sell, you needed music. Okay, I guess it could the logic could be other way around. But maybe it's a genre, right? Also that that fits into this mold so much that you got complete kind of, again, segue or overlap between a music genre, and then you got commercial interest, right? LG, Samsung, and so on and so forth. That there is no at some point it's very difficult to distinguish the two, is what I keep hearing, or at least that's my assumption when I look at, obviously, some of these things that are happening. Whereas at least here, that there is music is supposed, there is sometimes music comes out that is liked and shared by a lot of people, but it's almost impossible to have music shared by, consensually accepted and tolerated by most people in America, because it's so diverse.
Yes.
Right. So you got hip hop, which is obviously very popular, but Travis Scott couldn't do a commercial for Coca-Cola. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Or has he? I don't know. You guys know better. I don't think he has. I think the only person who's out there, who's a big celebrity, music celebrity, who does commercials constantly, is Taylor Swift. But other than Taylor Swift, I don't really know who's out there in terms of, again, like legitimate, right, pop star who's capable of doing all these commercials, because, again, in terms of, again, identification, it's very difficult to find a star that is broad-based. Kanye West couldn't do it, although at one point he was the most popular music star in America.
Yeah.
So, it's a different, again, I think, social values and the ways in which we perceive or approach music. It seems to be very different from, I know you don't, you just admitted that you don't know America that well, but America and Korea.
Yeah, no, indeed. And Australian ads, so whenever I go to the US, I always switch on the TV immediately because it's fascinating, right? And I do the same in Korea.
Oh.
So I see some of the differences, especially in the ads, of which there are many in the US on TVs. When you switch on the hotel, you first get the hotel ad, of course, and then it says, "Hi, Roald," blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, you're told what to buy, which in Britain, where I used to live, of course, is an absolute no-no. You're not supposed to tell your audience what to buy because the audience is smarter than the advertiser, or at least wants to believe they are smarter. So it's quite a different. Now in Australia, they follow very much the American model. And so they're actually worse here because they don't have as big a budget. So they're really awful ads. Pretty much 99% of Australian ads is trash. And they tell you, you know, we've got something quite cheap. And yeah, you got to check this out, mate. You can come in on a Friday morning, and we got a couple of stubbies for you, and very basic. And there's just a guy talking to the camera. It's not even made to look nice or anything. But Australians kind of like that, the simplicity of it. So that's one thing that is always quite fascinating. Now, if I may, just two little points about what you just said, is because it's fascinating. So conformity will exist in the US too, of course, and as it does here. The fact that we like particular patterns in our advertising means we've been kind of trained to appreciate those particular styles, and so that's the conformity. And when I hear of another rock band in Australia trashing a hotel room, I think, oh gosh, they must have been under such poor things, must have been under such social pressure to trash the hotel room, because that's what you do. You know, otherwise you're not a real rock band. So I don't think that actually Korea is always that much worse. It's just perhaps more, let's say, homogeneous. The sets of, I guess, models that people must conform to are probably less diverse than they are in the United States and in Australia. There's probably many more models here that you can fit. And another thing I wanted to quickly say, that so when you talk about music and conformity and tonality, if you like, so this sense of, you know, this kind of neo-Marxist idea that the music is helping us work and shut up, basically. And that's why music is predictable. You know, as soon as Britney Spears starts singing, you know, how the song will kind of run. And yet I must say, I like it. I quite often like a song that is predictable. It's the same with movies. So, you know, people complain that at least in Korea, you might not know, at least in the past, you might not know how it ends. Whereas in Hollywood, you can always tell how a movie ends when you start watching. I actually often like to know that the good guys win. And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of people enjoy the predictability of entertainment, whether it's in music, in film, and in other forms of entertainment. And I don't think that that's because I enjoy to keep working or something, or that it allows me to work harder. So there's interesting kind of, I think, individual experiences of conformity and of, I guess, of patterns within particular music or other entertainment format.
Okay, I think we have one more question from the Q&A. Monica?
Yeah, I can read it myself. So it asks,
Okay.
Melody is asking, do hit shows, do they get used in commercials frequently in South Korea? That's the question for those sitting here. She said, I've noticed that in the United States, a lot of online shops are using the Squid Game title font to promote their shops and products, which is, I must say, which is great. I wish we had that here in Canberra. I don't know. is the answer. So I'm going to Korea next month, but I just like your professor, I haven't been to Korea for a little while because our borders were completely shut. And actually, they're still shut today. They're opening, I think, next week. So no one is allowed in or out. And so that makes, following up on these things a bit harder. I think I've seen things on Facebook that suggest there's quite a lot of use of Squid Game, especially for tourists, I imagine, but also for Koreans themselves. I've seen my Korean friends trying to cut out particular heart patterns in cookies and so on. So I think there's quite a lot of use of the Squid Game popularity, but I don't know to what extent and so on. In Australia, of course, there's very little because we're very slow here. But I've seen, for example, in my college, completely nothing to do with me. I've seen people make jokes and using Photoshop to create the cookies, for example, and using the symbols as well in some of their marketing, just kind of as a joke. So I guess it's the same here. But again, I haven't been allowed to go to Sydney, so I don't even know how it is in Sydney.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Roald, for coming in. I understand it's very early over there. But making it and sharing your valuable time with us here in Irvine. Though they didn't have that many questions today, I think I'm very sure, I'm confident that we all benefited and appreciate it. I think it's also the medium. It's difficult kind of ask questions when you feel as if, okay, like you're talking to a big brother. So yeah. And Friday is just around the corner, so you're not totally.
Yes, true.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway,
so thank you again for spending your Friday morning with us.